All right, thank you everybody for coming. We really appreciate it very much. I'm Jim Waring. I'm the city council person to east of I-17. With us is Thelda Williams, whose district we are in right now. Thank you for coming up, Thelda. We appreciate it. We appreciate everybody being here. I know people are still kind of coming in, but we'll go ahead and get started. There's a video that we started to talk about kind of the budget process and where it's at and so forth. So out of respect for all you guys being here and being seated right at 6, we'll just get started. Rod, do you want to go ahead and run it? And then after that, if you want to speak, if you could fill out a card, hopefully they've been telling you that as you came in. They will collect the cards, and then we'll call your name. And if you could come up, and then there's a seat. We'll call 2 at a time, and if the next person could sit and just be ready to go. You can also fill out a card if you don't want to speak, a little camera shy, whatever. You can fill out a card too and just give your comments, and they will also be put into the record. And these comments are important because we have a framework of a budget, but we don't have a final budget that hasn't been voted on yet. So part of the purpose of these meetings is to find out what people are interested in. And the way we find out what you're interested in is by filling out a card at one of our meetings. And we have 15 around the city. So without further ado, I think we'll go ahead and show it, and then we'll go from there. Thank you.
Let's talk about the City of Phoenix budget. But wait, don't go anywhere. We're gonna make this quick and interesting. Did you know that last year, 1.5 tons of broccoli were served at Phoenix senior centers? And city vehicles like these garbage trucks traveled 2.9 million miles. That's equal to 119 times around the earth. Can't forget about our furry friends, the city's trained police and fire dogs. Their job is to sniff out the bad guys and find evidence. Last year, they ate 24,000 pounds of food to stay strong. So what does any of this have to do with the city budget? Everything. The Phoenix budget is around $4 billion and pays for lots of services that make your life better, safer, and more convenient. It's a huge effort made up of lots of smaller pieces, the programs and people that it takes to get the job done. So how those pieces fit together, the people, the buildings, the vehicles, and equipment, gets us to the total city budget. Explaining how it works isn't always easy. Managing every item in a budget with over 400 different services provided by over 14,000 employees is a year-round project, one we work on every day. And it's you, the residents of Phoenix, who we have to thank for giving us a budget to balance. The bottom line is that we get revenue, taxes and fees for specific services and grants that we spend on the cost of services. That's city employees, buildings, equipment, contracts, and supplies. Here's how we get revenue to pay for important city services. For example, when you eat at a restaurant, shop in a store, fill up the tank, fly out of Sky Harbor, or pay your property taxes or your water and trash bill. That all helps to pay for things like fire and police, paving roads, new bike lanes, more library books, street lights, clean water, parks and trails, just to name a few. To provide these important services, we divide our work and track our costs through 36 city departments and functions like police, fire, parks, libraries, neighborhood services, water and aviation, and our support services like the city clerk, human resources, finance, budget, and information technology departments. Like clockwork, every spring, departments look at what it takes to provide the services for the year. Did employees leave, or did new staff join the team? Are there needed or unplanned building or equipment repairs? What will broccoli cost next year? Are there new projects that need to be considered? Okay, we talked about broccoli. Now let's talk about pie. Every department gets a slice, or at least a sliver of the pie, and most departments like police, fire, libraries, parks, neighborhood services, and human services are supported by the general fund. It's a pot of money that comes from these areas: general sales and property taxes, revenue distributed by the state from income, state sales, and vehicle taxes, and some fines and fees. The general fund is a little less than a third of the entire budget because it pays for services that everyone needs, like public safety, senior and youth programs, neighborhoods, and libraries, it's the part that gets the most of the public's attention. Now, check out this slice. It's a little more than a third, and it's called enterprise funds. Think business revenue. This slice is from those departments that only charge the people who use their services directly. For example, airlines and passengers at the airport, conventioneers, water and sewer users, and customers who pay for trash pickup and recycling. And the last slice is called special revenue funds. That's the last third of the budget. This is funding that comes from taxes dedicated for a special purpose. For example, Phoenix Parks and Preserves, Transportation 2050 for streets and transit, and the special dedicated sales taxes for police and fire hiring. Now, to get the budget to the next step, first we take a look at what we think it'll cost to provide our services next year, looking at salaries and benefits for the employees in each area. That's about 80% of our general fund budget, as well as other costs like replacing equipment and paying for gas, electricity, computers, and supplies. Then we estimate how much revenue we will take in through taxes, fees, and grants. By law, we have to make the revenue and expenses match. That's called a balanced budget. If there's not enough, we ask how to cut back. But if there's more revenue than expenses, we ask how it should be spent. It's the same process for general funds, enterprise funds, and special revenue funds. That asking is called the trial budget. It's a list of proposals from the city manager and staff based on what they have heard from the city council and the community. It's a trial budget because it's not final. It's a starting place to hear from you. The trial budget is discussed with the city council, and then we come to you. Every resident of Phoenix, yes, all 1.6 million of you, are invited to tell us what you think. You can attend a meeting and give your feedback there, or read the trial budget online and give feedback that way. Based on what you tell us, the budget is revised and presented to the city council for a second round of discussion and feedback. And then the final budget is developed and presented for the city council to formally adopt. That means when July 1st rolls around, broccoli can be served and trucks can roll through the city. Departments know how much funding they have. Remember the pie? But they have to live within their means and use only the slice they've been given. What happens next? A new year of work. The budget process for the following year starts, and we do it all again. Managing and balancing the budget is a big responsibility, and we are glad to have you be part of it every year.
And now, the City of Phoenix 2018-2019 trial budget. Last year, we projected a potential budget deficit for 2018-19, more expenses than revenue, as high as $60 million. Thanks to strong leadership from the mayor and city council, we took early action, and now we have a balanced budget. Here's what we did. Last September, the city council voted to reduce overhead expenses. The council also acted on a new state law that allowed us to spread our public safety pension payments over 25 years instead of 20 years. The city also held the line on spending, giving us a surplus fund balance to start the year. And a healthy economy kept revenues on target. All this led to a 5-year forecast with our budget in balance. Now the trial budget starts with basically the same pie as last year, continuing our core services. In the general fund and dedicated revenue funds, this includes hiring firefighters and police officers, providing funding for parks, streets, transit, libraries, senior centers, youth services, arts and culture, and neighborhood services. We also have funds to replace aging vehicles, especially police cars and fire equipment, repair buildings and facilities, and keep our computer systems up to date. And with some of the savings from last year, we funded a police and fire pension reserve fund to help pay any unexpected future changes in their pension costs. The trial budget includes $2.7 million in proposed enterprise and special revenue fund additions to keep pace with growth and workload demands, as well as $2.9 million in additional general funds to allocate for community services. The general fund provides support for basic services across the city, like police and fire staffing, park and library operations, and programs for youth and seniors. Let's walk through each area. First, the general fund. Public safety has the highest priority in our budget, with over 70% of our general fund going to police, fire, prosecutors, court system, and emergency management. In the trial budget, the proposal is speed up processing of the more than 77,000 police public records requests received each year by reallocating current resources. In addition, the police department will add resources for crime scene investigation. Adding 5 new positions will help officers locate and apprehend violent offenders possessing guns. The addition of 8 fire protection positions to support the city's building inspection program and ensure properties throughout the city comply with fire safety laws and standards. And we're budgeted to continue hiring police officers and firefighters. The trial budget includes a $6 million general fund set aside and related grant support to keep fire's filled staffing level at 1,654 positions for the next 3 years. Reducing the impacts of homelessness in Phoenix is a priority. With a nearly 60% increase in unsheltered homeless, the goal of the city is lead with services by connecting individuals experiencing homelessness with appropriate services while reducing the impact on Phoenix neighborhoods. The PHX Cares Community Action, Response, Engagement Services Initiative saw more than 1,000 calls for outreach and engagement in the first 3 months. As part of the new PHX Cares initiative, the proposed budget provides for additions across human services, neighborhood services, and parks and recreation, including the addition of 2 more contracted homeless outreach teams to increase the city's caseload capacity by 360 clients per year, and continuing to lead with services. Parks and Recreation will add 2 ranger positions to provide direct outreach to people needing services in the city's urban park system. This brings our total number of rangers to 79. Adding 2 positions to coordinate client service referrals, improve response times, and ensure coordination of efforts by all city departments to address code violations that arise from encampments. Phoenix continues its investment in neighborhood livability in this year's proposed budget with these proposed additions. Add 5 enforcement staff in the Neighborhood Services Department for a new sober living home licensing program. The purpose of this program is to enhance the health, safety, and welfare of residents of structured sober living homes and the surrounding community by establishing standards and regulations for the homes and their operators. As part of program administration, the City Clerk Department also will add 2 licensing positions to process and oversee applications funded through licensing fees. Increasing shade and replacing trees citywide with $450,000 to plant 750 trees annually and provide water and maintenance for them to thrive. This is also part of the city's Tree and Shade Master Plan. Additionally, the Office of Arts and Culture is proposed to receive an additional $30,000 in funds to increase grant funding for Phoenix arts and culture organizations to pre-recession levels. There is also funding for a project manager tasked with developing a Latino cultural center in the city of Phoenix. And for our libraries, continuing to restore hours for the community. This proposal makes Sunday hours permanent at 4 libraries: Yucca, Century, Harmon, and Ocotillo. Lastly, the budget provides for funding to support outreach for the 2020 census to make sure all residents participate and get counted, and the staff needed to oversee the city's involvement with the census count. Now for the non-general fund piece of the pie. Remember, this funding comes from dedicated fees and charges to customers, like development fees from companies that must pay for construction-related services provided by the city. The Planning and Development Department would use this revenue to add 18 positions, handling everything from plan review and site inspections to mapping, long-term planning, and more frontline staff for customer service assistance. Additionally, the Street Transportation Department would use special revenue funds to add 30 positions at a cost of $859,000 to improve our streets and support the paving maintenance and traffic improvements, as well as traffic signal electricians, Transportation 2050 related bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure development and maintenance, and employees to oversee the city's pavement plan, street sweeping, and proper implementation of Americans with Disabilities Act required projects. Altogether, these pieces of the pie do more than describe the work our city departments will do in the coming year. They tell the story of Phoenix's continued growth to be the 5th largest city in the country, with a diverse and thriving economy and a community that's in demand as a great place to live, work, and play. Thanks for taking the time to learn about the 2018-19 City of Phoenix trial budget. And please don't forget, this year's budget hasn't been adopted just yet. Your input is important, and the City of Phoenix wants to hear from you on what the upcoming budget should look like. Make sure you pick up a budget pamphlet outlining all the proposals and options at any of the public meetings or online at phoenix.gov/budget. You can also send your comments or questions to budget.research@phoenix.gov, or to reach us by phone, call 602-262-4800. You can also comment on social media by using #PhoenixBudget. Thank you for participating in this important process.
Thanks again, everybody, for coming. We have a rule about 2 minutes to speak. We'll give a little bit of wiggle room, but if you could kind of tailor your comments to be a couple minutes, we'd appreciate it. We'll just take the cards in order as we have them. Some of you did not wish to speak, so I'll read the comments and they will go into the record. If you change your mind, though, just raise your hand and we're happy to have you come up. We'll just, like I said, do them in order. Oh, we have an interpreter. I forgot that. I apologize. So if you could raise your hand. Thank you very much. We have an interpreter should the need arise. All right, first person is Linda Colino. Linda, you were number 1 with the cards, if you want to come up. And then the second person is Craig Tripkin, the former councilman. I did not see him come in. Where is he? Okay, Craig, if you could come over and take the hot seat. We're ready to go. Excuse me. Apologize. I have some allergies. And you'll be ready to go when Linda is done.
Hi.
Linda, the floor is yours.
My name is Linda Colino, and I've been a resident of Phoenix since 1962. Why I'm here today, there's 2 reasons. One is to thank the City Council for their support on the sober living homes. This is going forward. We're hoping that everything is going to be settled tomorrow, and they have been absolutely wonderful, and I thank you for putting that monies in the budget. I do not support the additional funding for CBI, though, for community outreach workers. After 6 to 8 contacts, CBI only gets 1 in 10 off the street. These folks prefer to be on the street. That's a program that is 90% ineffective. While the trash and the needles and the human waste piles up in our neighborhoods. I've experienced it in my area, and I'm sure everybody else has experienced it in theirs. When the program was pitched as the city's solution to homelessness, we were told that those who do not accept services would not be allowed to continue trespassing or stay in areas areas where they are not allowed. They are still there, and we're asking that we give not one more penny to CBI. There needs to be a better way. First of all, why do these people want to stay on the streets? We need to find that out. I do support, though, the addition of the park rangers. In fact, we need more. This is the one program that is working effectively and collaboratively to lead with services alongside CBI while not allowing violations of park rules to continue. I do support the additional positions for neighborhood services. Again, we need more resources. They need the additional staffing resources proposed to more effectively handle the increased workload of complaints coming in through Phoenix Cares. Take the CBI money and give it to support additional positions for public works and streets. These departments are charged with cleaning up the trash, all those shopping carts and all the trash that they leave alongside of the roads, and hazardous waste that is being left behind from the homeless. The current process with CBI does not work. Spend that money to find a better way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I was terribly rude before. Milton, I don't think I introduced you. Milton Dahoney is the assistant city manager, so he is the number 2 at the city. So there are about 14,000 employees who report to Milton. And we appreciate his work and him being here very much. There are 3 budget hearings going on tonight, so the staff is scattered throughout the city. So Craig, if you would come up, former councilman Craig Tripkin, and then Michelle Dew, I hope I'm saying that right. If you could sit over there, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much for letting me speak here. I just want to set the table really easily, and I can be very quick. I have data that backs up everything I say. Number one, unsheltered homeless individuals has tripled in the last 6 years, and I think most of the public knows that. Well, the presentation said some of that. Shelter beds. By September of this year, there are 300 beds that are closing down on the campus of the overflow. Shelter beds will have declined by 27%, or 382 beds in the last, well, by September. That creates a problem. I'm here to tell you that case management and shelter works. It just plain works. It works for people. There's data that shows that people are better off in housing after they've been in the shelter because they need sort of a cooling off period. If a person's on the street for a long time, they've got the equivalent of PTSD, and they really need to have a stable environment for a period of time. If we can do a better job of casework, and if we have more money for casework, we can free up beds. We have an 80% positive outcome rate. That frees up beds. It shortens the length of stay, and it frees up beds for us, and hopefully that can help ease some of the problem that every neighborhood in Phoenix has. I think I'll just leave it right there and tell you that if you want to get homeless people out of your neighborhood, they have to be made uncomfortable enough in your neighborhoods that they would rather seek help than they would have. They get food and shelter typically where they are. Whether it may be a bush, but it's not their first preference. But they have to be made uncomfortable enough that they're going to come down and they're going to seek services. And we have to have beds available for that. And last Friday, we turned away 60 people as the overflow closed. So if you want to get homeless people out of your neighborhood, get them a bed at Cass. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Ms. Dew, and then if Raleigh Dancer or Raleigh Duncan, if you could come up and sit in the hot seat, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here tonight. So I understand one of the pillars for the city's strategic plan is public safety, and that we're considering putting over $500,000 into more staff for Phoenix PD. However, I ask that we reframe our thinking of what public safety actually means. More cops don't necessarily equal more safety. In fact, for our communities, it equals more fear and trauma. So that's why I'm here to present 2 demands tonight. Demand 1 for the City of Phoenix to create a legal defense fund for immigrants pushed to ICE custody by Phoenix PD. And then demand 2, a compensation fund for the communities impacted by police violence. This would include resources to go to counseling, trauma support, therapy needed after incidents of police violence. Please understand that this message is relevant to all of us because for the first time, police violence is part of the public discourse, and we need to talk about it. There have been 19 officer-involved shootings so far in 2018, and 11 people have been killed by police in 2018. We're only in April. Safety doesn't only come through policing. It can come through investment in community services. Parks, neighborhood services, and human services also come from the general fund, and these areas can use further funding. These areas can make safer communities, and as Phoenix residents, we just ask that you consider what is best for taxpayers' dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Duncan, was it? Duncan, thank you. And then Ron Friesen, if you would come up. Thank you.
I too am here today to talk about the request for additional police funding. I don't really feel like additional police funding is a good investment of funds specifically. If I have to call the police to come to my house, it's too late. I'd rather pay for peace. I'm not looking to pay for reactionism. I'd rather pay for peace and not the need to call police officers. So with that, I too, along with Michelle, am requesting that we have the City of Phoenix create a legal defense fund for immigrants pushed into ICE custody by Phoenix PD, as well as a compensation fund for communities impacted by police violence. These resources should go to counseling, trauma support therapy needed for victims who have been incidents of police violence. As it stands, the budget for police officers is still there. There's still more than enough money to hire folks. With what's been made in the budget is still sitting there. Adding more to a pot that has yet to be filled makes no sense. It's a bad use of funds. And I do feel like we could be putting those funds into something that could be actual crime prevention rather than crime reaction, which I do see as the primary ability for officers to respond to crime. With that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Mr. Friesen, and then Jason Sanders is next.
Thank you very much, Councilman Waring and Councilman Williams, for this opportunity to speak to you and to our city staff about our concerns. So I'm now the chaplain for the homeless. I function every day down, or as often as I can, down at 1125 West Jackson, the Human Service Campus. And I'm very concerned about the money being allocated or requested for Phoenix Cares. I really think that that money could be better invested in other things, as was recommended or stated earlier by very eloquently by the first speaker. I want to support that. We are initiating through various agencies the Success on the Streets program, mentors from our faith community to work with the homeless that are placed in new residences, apartments, so they can be successfully integrated in society and continue to be established in that home and not become homeless again. As I have been interviewing people on the campus, lots of people come back over and over again. Clearly there's a problem about consistency of follow through with these people. The other program that is happening is Healthy Giving Program. This was initiated last November by some citizens who thought that there needed to be a better way to react to handing out the food to the people under the bush or in the street corner, as opposed to actually engaging them and getting them services. So we are engaged in training congregations on how to respond responsibly. Thank you to the city for the staff who attend the Healthy Giving meeting, and I thank you for those who come and want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Doug Sutherland after Mr. Sanders.
My name is Jason Sanders. I'm a firefighter with the City of Phoenix, and I currently work on Engine 27. I have 15 years with the fire department, and I also live in District 2. First, I'd like to thank you both for your work in getting Engine 55 staffed full-time coming up on May 1st. But I'm here primarily tonight as a member of the Phoenix Fire Department to request a plan from our city's leaders to increase staffing. The model that is used by the city to determine staffing needs is outdated. The temporary measures designed to survive budget deficits 10 years ago has created a dangerous scenario. This staffing shortage has put our citizens and firefighters' lives at risk. I worked on Engine 55 the other day, and we still had an 11-minute response time from quarters. The NFPA standards is 5 minutes and 20 seconds. That area is so large and continues to grow so rapidly, another station may be needed soon in that area. The problem is not just in outlying areas such as Engine 55s. Stations with large first due coverage and high population densities are frequently already on a call when another emergency is dispatched in their area, possibly doubling the response time it takes for that emergency to get there from a further station. Since 2010, the Phoenix Fire Department has seen an increase of 50,000 calls. The increase comes without any additional staffing or full-time fire trucks. Fire Engine 7 alone, one of the busiest trucks in the country, is being called to 5,410 emergencies in 2017. The weight of protecting the citizens of Phoenix weighs heavily on us, and we worked hard every shift to get it done with the resources we have, but we need some help. The population of Phoenix is growing steadily with no signs of slowing down. The number of firefighters and fire trucks has not increased with this population growth. This challenges our abilities to respond quickly and effectively to your emergencies. Currently, the city of Phoenix Fire Department has 138 firefighters less than the minimum national standard. 138 more firefighters would provide us enough staffing for 5 additional fire trucks, ensuring faster response times to our citizens and better coverage in our city. A long-term plan is needed to give your family and my family the protection they deserve. Thank you.
Mr. Sutherland, followed by Michael Soto.
Good evening, and thank you for having these public meetings and hearings because they are important for elected officials to hear from their constituents. I spent 30 years as an elected official in the state of Washington, as a mayor, as a county executive, and lastly as a commissioner of public lands, dealing with all of the public lands in the state of Washington, nearly 6 million acres. I'm also currently the president of the Anthem Parkside Homeowners Association. There's 7,200 homes currently in Parkside, 40% of which are on the west side, 60% on the east side of 17. We have, as a community, a need for parks and recreation facilities. We own and operate our own. Most recently, we spent $2.8 million in the design and building of Opportunity Park, located in the city of Phoenix. We build it, we maintain it, we operate it, including all of its utility. We received basically little from the city in that regard. We have 200 new homes north of the outlets, and there are another 300 homes proposed on the east side of 17. We need to start thinking about how do we provide the proper facilities for the people that are in the growth areas north of Jomax. And by the way, I applaud the fact that you're building a new fire station there. I think that's something you need to start thinking in the future about how do we deal with some of those issues. Police staffing. We have very few police in the Anthem community, mostly the sheriff on the east side, with some police presence on the west side. But I think you need to start thinking about a satellite office somewhere north of Jomax, because with the USAA development and the other areas north of there, future development is going to require that you have a regional park. It's going to require better police services and better fire services. So we ask you that not to argue so much about this budget, but also start the thinking process of the next budgets. This is what I was required to do as an elected official, and I don't see you folks having anything other than the same before you as well. There's lots of problems in the city of Phoenix. It's a huge city. It's spread out. It has a diverse population and significant needs. I'm delighted that you have funds in excess of what you had anticipated. The wants are always better than, or more than the needs. And so I'm delighted that, leastwise, you're putting together a broad, serious budget to be able to approach ahead. Our objective in the North, Anthem, and our communities around it is to start thinking about what's going to happen, because it's going to happen. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lind. Next is Mr. Soto, followed by Luke Black. Mr. Black, thank you.
Good evening, council members, city staff, and community members. My name is Michael Soto. I am a Phoenix native and resident. I've lived here my whole life and grew up here and have chosen to continue to live here in this vibrant and bright city. I'm here to speak with you today about the proposed funding for police departments. Community safety is not contingent upon police officers. Research has shown this over and over again. And in fact, the Phoenix Police Department is one of the deadliest in the nation. That means that they actually create a significant amount of harm to Phoenix residents. Instead of investing more in this facet of our community that creates a great deal of harm, I'm here to support the asks of those who are marginalized in our community and community members who have come together to ask that the City of Phoenix creates a legal defense fund for immigrants who have been pushed into detention by the Phoenix Police Department. We all need to remember that immigrants are the backbone of this great nation and this great state. And also a compensation fund for communities who have been most impacted by police violence. Police violence is an epidemic in this nation and in this city, and we need to address it substantively by helping those who have been hurt and marginalized by police officers. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Black, followed by Steve Berline.
Thank you, council persons. My name is Luke. I am a resident of Phoenix as well. I've been here since about 2004. I am also here advocating for no new funding for police officers. The police continue to push a narrative that they are the sole sources of safety in our community. This narrative is incorrect. There are multiple avenues that have been mentioned today, including homeless services, increases for the fire department, neighborhood services that promote safety as well, and we need to be funding those. The city has been trying to hire new officers for 2 years now and has not been able to fill those positions, frankly, because people don't want to work for one of the most violent police departments in the country. Phoenix trailed only Los Angeles in 2016 in police killings, and as one of the folks mentioned earlier, there have already been 11 police killings this year. There is no accountability within the City of Phoenix Police Department for their violence, and we need that accountability before we need more officers and before we need increased funding. I would ask for the two budget items that were also demanded and asked by fellow folks that spoke. First, for a legal defense fund for immigrants, people that are in our communities, people that pay taxes, that go to our schools, that work, and the only difference between them and most of us is that they don't have a piece of paper. The City of Phoenix Police should not be collaborating with ICE and should not be pushing those people into custody, and if they do, the city should pay for legal defense for those individuals. In addition, the Phoenix Police need to be held accountable, and a compensation fund for communities impacted by police violence would be a step towards that accountability. I would also speak directly to Councilman Waring and Councilwoman Williams. You know, I have watched y'all govern for a while now, and I've always respected how you hold the city accountable for how we spend our dollars. Continuing to fund police with no end in sight, no accountability, is a lazy use of our funding. The police do not provide safety, and we continue to push this idea of funding the police, funding the police, funding the police, and there are better ways to spend our dollars, and frankly, I expect the city to manage taxpayer dollars in a way that is more equitable and is a better use of our taxpayer dollars. Once again, I ask for no new spending for police in this budget. Thank you.
Next is Steve Berline, followed by, and I'm going to read because she doesn't wish to speak, Michelle Rickards' card after Mr. Berline goes. But the next speaker is Chris Crowley. If you're here, if you would come on up.
My name is Steve Berline. I'm a resident of District 1 right down the street. I'm also a captain on the Phoenix Fire Department and the president of the United Phoenix Firefighters Association. I'd like to start by thanking the City of Phoenix staff for providing this opportunity for the communities and our members of Firefighters Association to come out and speak. It's a huge sacrifice for you and your families. For our police officers that are here keeping us safe, thank you. For our fire chiefs that are here, support, thank you. For the staff, Milton, thank you. I know it's your time away, and I just need to recognize that. Councilman Waring, for your leadership, and Vice Mayor Felda, thank you. First of all, Station 55, without the leadership of you two, we wouldn't have that fire station. We wouldn't have had the temporary station there. And as soon as that engine went in service, they fought fires, they stopped fires, and they saved lives, literally. The firemen, the paramedics do an outstanding job out there, but they wouldn't be in existence if it wasn't for your leadership and your support. Thank you. Now that they're going to go for full-time, that community is protected even further. But we have to continue having a plan, looking at a plan. We have some vulnerabilities out there. Deer Valley Airport, I know it's a different budget through aviation, but we have to recognize that there's a fire station, Engine 36, right out there, but they're not trained, they're not staffed, and they're not equipped to fight aviation fires. And Deer Valley is the busiest general aviation airport in the nation. As we go north, west of Anthem, the Rio Vista neighborhood, it's booming out there. It's really growing. As far as I know, we don't have a plan for fire and EMS service out there too. So we need to keep moving forward with the plan, identify the areas that need further coverage. Hopefully the economy will continue to grow and the revenues will be there to enhance police and fire and all departments of the city. But more than anything, I want to thank you for your leadership and provide the ability for Engine 55 crews to save property and save lives up here. Thank you.
And it was just addressed, but I'm going to read Michelle Rickards' card. I don't know if she's here. I didn't see her. It says 85085 needs 55-star fire station full-time plus rescue badly. And as you heard just a day or so ago, May 1st, it's going to be fully staffed. So I don't know if she wanted to speak. If you do, just raise your hand. What's that? I understand. Gotcha. Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you. Sure. I think Steve was telling me earlier, and he'd know that was the fastest they've ever got a station up and running. I wouldn't know from personal experience, so I'm not claiming that, but you obviously have a few years as a firefighter, so you would know. So I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. By a long shot, he says. So thank you, and thank you for being here, and thank you for your comment. Mr. Crowley, and then the next person to speak, if they could come up, is Regina Nixon.
My name's Chris Crowley. Been a resident my whole life of the city of Phoenix. I've worked for the fire department for the last 12 years, roughly. As some of my fellow firefighters and brothers have said, thank you very much for staffing 55 and getting that to a full-time status. I know the other day, Engine 55 alone ran 3 fires, and one of them was the big defensive fire up there by Deer Valley. But we're still short-staffed. I mean, we're short of 140 guys that'll put 5 fire trucks into the system, which in turn will help out the response times around the valley. If one truck's on a call and they're first due, the next truck and the next due over comes over. That's a response time of over 6+ minutes, and that's not acceptable by anybody's standards. When you look at it from a paramedic standpoint, time is tissue. And if you're having a heart attack or something of a major incident, the faster we can get to you, the faster we can start solving your problems and get you to the hospital, get you the proper care. The only way we're going to do that is to hire more firefighters, put more trucks into service, and build stations. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to Ms. Nixon, we have a couple cards that people had submitted not requesting to speak. Tom Henry, I don't know if you're still here, increase the amount of firefighters by 138. This will man 5 fire trucks and decrease response times. Thank you for your comment. Lori Berline, who I know I talked to earlier, the fire department alarm room is severely short of supervisory personnel. The span of control is too great for effective supervision. We lost 2, I think that says positions in RIF, only got 1 back. Thank you for your comment. Court Asbury, the number of emergency responses the Phoenix Fire Department responds to has increased by 50,000 from 2010 to 2017. What's that? Yeah. I will tell you, Mr. Asbury, I am not in a position to criticize another man's handwriting. I apologize. I will, you know, it might be better if you do. I apologize. I'm so sorry. That's okay. That's okay.
Did anybody see my EMS documentation? I apologize for inconvenience. I'm sorry for taking up your time. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And I'm just echoing what my brothers were saying. We've increased our call volume 50,000 from the year 2010 to 2017. Population's growing. The call volume's increasing, obviously. You know, like my other brother, Chris, in the service said, our goal, and I don't know if everybody understands this, but one of the reasons why we have that 5-minute, 20-second goal is worst case scenario, you have somebody in cardiac arrest. You have about 5 minutes before you start, 6 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes before you have permanent brain damage. So that's one of the reasons why, you know, response time is so important. We found that, you know, statistically when buildings, whether it be residential or commercial, and they start getting, you know, flame impingement and the structural, you know, the part of the structure itself, it'll collapse within 15 to 17 seconds if it's not mitigated. So that's why this is so important right now. I just want to echo that, you know, we're hoping that you'll make that a priority. Consider staffing the additional 138 firefighters for the 5 additional units. That'll make a huge difference. And by the way, I'm a captain. I'm been on the job 27 years. I'm a paramedic. I'm in Ahwatukee Station 38, so we deal with a lot of light, you know, outlying areas where we have extended response times. And we oftentimes do run into the scenario where we have one truck that's out on another call, and so the next 2 engines coming in, and it does delay response time, and it's, you know, to the you know, compromising the safety of the people we serve. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
I can assure you the card didn't say all that. His handwriting was hard to read, but I was not that far off. So thank you. Thanks for bringing it back. I appreciate it. So we're ready for Ms. Nixon, and then if we could have Rosanna Breton, if you could come up, please. Thank you. Ms. Nixon.
Thank you. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you very much to Councilman Waring and Vice Mayor Thelda Williams for the support of arts and culture in the city of Phoenix. I run a nonprofit arts organization, the Phoenix Conservatory of Music, located here in District 1, and I can tell you for the young people that we are serving, it is absolutely something that changes their lives. Through the support what the city of Phoenix gives us, we are able to provide scholarship support. Young people are getting into college. They have a path for their future that they didn't have before. So we just really want to say thank you and that we truly appreciate the level of support in the trial budget. It helps to restore funding to a pre-recession level. However, it's important to note that there are not any additional funds made available for the public art maintenance, which is a desperate need for our community, so that art installments, which many times are tied to improvements in streets, transit, and other necessary services, remain safe and showcase our city to its best. It's also important to note that in 1986, the City of Phoenix Grants Program started its support with $629,000. If we adjust that amount for inflation, the total today would be $1.4 million. We're not at that level of initial investment that was made in 1986. And we know that it'll be a while before we can get there. But we also know that the arts play a vital role in helping our community to get new businesses, to make our schools more vibrant, and our community safer. So we just want to say thank you for allowing us to be a part of our landscape, and that we know the city of Phoenix is an amazing city to be proud of. And we have some incredible, innovative things that are happening. And we want to be a force for making our city even better, and urge you to consider as we move forward that $1 per capita in public funding through grants for arts and culture. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move on to Ms. Breton, we do have a card from Cody Brooks. It says, add fire department personnel and apparatus to serve the community adequately. Thank you for your comment and for your being here. And if Julie Reed is here and can make her way up, and Ms. Breton, we're ready for you.
Hi, I'm Rosanna Bretoy, actually. That's okay, that's okay. My handwriting's bad too, so. My name's Rosanna Bretoy, and I have lived in 85085 for 12 and a half years. And I want to, first of all, thank you so much for Engine 55 up there. Really excited about that. But I'm here specifically to talk about how important it is to have properly staffed police and fire up there. It is a big growing area. Last summer in July, I was driving my husband home from shoulder surgery, and I was down at St. Joseph's Hospital, so about 20 miles away. And my two girls who are with me tonight, they were 12 and 10. They were home alone when a lady crawled through our doggy door, and she attacked my 12-year-old. Well, before she had time to do that, my daughter had FaceTimed my husband, who was heavily medicated from his surgery, and let him know that somebody was trying to get in the house. And my husband saw this person come through the doggy door, and he told our daughters, okay, we're going to hang up, and we're going to call 911, and you call 911, and the police will come and save you, because we were 20 miles away. And we hung up the phone, and he called 911 and said, somebody's in my home with my daughters right now. My daughters also called 911. I started driving. I'm not ashamed to admit that I broke a lot of traffic laws that day to get home to my girls. The sad part about this story is that I got to my girls before the police did. I showed up at my home, and my daughters weren't there. My dogs were gone. My house was covered in blood. And the lady had attacked my 12-year-old. My 10-year-old had to stab the lady in the chest to save her sister's life. And I had time even to post on my Facebook and say, if my daughters are with you, please text me. My husband had time to run through our entire home looking for our daughters. I banged on doors up and down the street trying to get somebody to get attention to find out where my girls were. All of this happened before the police showed up. It took 15 minutes for somebody to get there. And with that area and as many homes as are up there, if there was a faster response time, if there was a police office that was close to us, maybe they could have gotten there before we did. Maybe they could have got the lady. I don't know what could have happened, but I think that nobody should have to have that fear. We have the police. We need to fund them so that we can protect our community. That's really all.
Thank you very much, and I'm sorry for the mispronunciation. We have Julie Reed next, followed by Leanne Murphy, if Leanne Murphy would come up. Thank you, Julie.
Good evening. I just wanted to start out by saying thank you, Vice Mayor Williams and Councilman Waring, for hearing the community concerns and for your staff being so diligent when we had questions and helping us get 55 up and running. Thank you to Phoenix Fire, to City Manager Zerker, and to United Phoenix Firefighters for working with our community. I am a firefighter wife, and so I hear the concerns. We're a big public safety family, and so, you know, I'm so excited that 55 is being fully staffed 24 hours, and that the station is back, you know, in the works, and we should have our station in our community soon. I just want to ensure that we do have a full-time rescue that's going to be there. From what I understand, we don't have a full-time rescue north of Deer Valley Road. And I do sit on the North Gateway Village Planning Committee, and we approve projects all of the time. We have apartment buildings that are popping up. We have high-end condo communities that are coming up. USAA is building their facility, and Honor Health is getting ready to break ground on what's supposed to be their flagship hospital in the state. And so with all of that, coupled with, you know, our elected officials like to tout that Maricopa is the fastest growing county in the nation, and I want to ensure that while it's the fastest growing county in the nation, that we're funding the necessary importances, streets, and public safety to keep up with that growth. Living where we do up in North Phoenix, we're not on a grid system. It takes a long time to weave in and out around the mountains and through the preserves to get to our houses when there is an emergency. And when you have an emergency, seconds matter. And I saw Rosanna's post on Facebook when she was trying to find her girls. And it was panicky. Everybody was concerned and worried. And thankfully, we have a great community up here in North Phoenix. I'm a leader of Blackwatch Phoenix North, and we rallied around her family and were able to help provide services for her in that meantime. But we do want to have the protection of our firefighters and our police officers. We want to make sure that they're fully staffed, that they're special units are fully staffed. Last legislative session, I helped write a bill to help the SONU unit, the Sex Offender Notification Unit, because the city of Phoenix was throwing away hundreds of thousands of dollars in paper notifications when a sex offender moves into your neighborhood, because even though they have 60 days to notify a neighborhood when a sex offender moves in, it was taking up to sometimes 4 to 6 months for them to notify. And by that time, the sex offender population had already moved on, and so they were throwing away these notices. So the law that I helped write and that Governor Ducey signed into law last year was to allow police departments to be able to start an email notification or some sort of electronic notification. But our SONU unit is vastly short of officers. And so if they don't have officers, they can't notify the public and they can't start to build that online database. And I want a safe community. I want North Phoenix to be safe. I want people to be proud of where they live. And I think that the way that we do that is by building a strong community that ensures that we are protected and that we work together as a community to address concerns. I also want to ensure that the people, the visitors, the tourists, and our business people that are flying in and out of Deer Valley Airport are being protected. My girlfriend's husband died in a plane crash out of Deer Valley Airport about 8 years ago. And so that does hit home for me. So I want to make sure that the people that are traveling in and out of there are protected as well. So thank you for this time. I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to interact with you and to be able to comment on this. And Jack does too. So
Thank you very much to both of you, you and your silent partner. Thank you. Leanne Murphy we have, followed by Josh Clem. Thank you.
So good evening, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share our thoughts on the budget proposal. So I am also here advocating against the increase in funding for the police department. I want to just briefly share a quick story just for reference. So I have a 7-year-old baby brother, and he's my favorite person in the world. And he's a bit tall for his age, and he has beautiful dark chocolate brown skin. And every moment that I think of my brother, which is several times a day, I am struck with feelings of powerlessness and grief because I watch him grow too quickly. And I wonder how much precious time we have as his family and his community until his inevitable first interaction with the police. I am terrified that he will not survive, and this thought brings me to tears quite frequently, too frequently. I don't want to regurgitate the statistics that you've already heard of the police department, the Phoenix Police Department being the second deadliest in the nation. But I do want us to think about what it really takes to create a healthy community. And by the budget that you've proposed, I think that you do understand that the factors that contribute to healthy communities are strategies that include access to reliable, efficient transportation so that residents can get to jobs that pay an actual livable wage and attend quality schools, recreation facilities and spaces where they can exercise and build community, access to affordable health care, housing, and healthy food, and a justice system that holds everyone accountable, including our police department. The current U.S. Department of Justice's Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services and the former police chief of the East Palo Alto Police Department said this: The greatest deterrent to crime and violence is not a community saturated by cops. It is a neighborhood alive with residents. The concept is that a healthy community would be, in fact, a safe community. Whoever controls a neighborhood's public spaces controls the quality of life in that neighborhood. The control must rest with the residents. And so I want to ask you to invest in our residents, to invest in the fire department, to invest in the arts program, to invest in programs to help with homelessness. This is what creates a healthy community. And I really hope that is what you see fit to fund. Thank you.
Mr. Clem, followed by Marshall Ziebel.
Hello, my name's Josh Clem, and this is my neighborhood. I grew up on 35th Avenue in Pinnacle Peak. I've lived here my whole life. When I grew up, I wanted to be part of the community, so I became a firefighter. I've been a firefighter for 11 years, and rather than sharing some of the same statistics that the other firefighters have shared, because this is my neighborhood, I'd like to share my own experience. One day I was working on Fire Station 50, it's at 35th Avenue and Beardsley, and we got called for a baby who was having a seizure. It happened to be on my block. It was my neighbor. I knew her. The baby was 2 months old. So what had happened is a scorpion crawled into the crib, stung the baby, and it took us 14 minutes to get there. We drove with the lights and sirens. We knew it was a child. We knew it was serious. We were simply too far away to provide the help that that baby needed. When I walked in the front door, I knew the mom, and what she said to me was, "Where were you? What took you so long to get here?" Because she was my neighbor. And I didn't have an answer for her. I didn't have a good response why it would take 14 minutes in a city this size to get help. And so that's why I'm here today, is to ask you the same question. Why is it okay to take 14 minutes to get help? In this district, in my neighborhood, the neighborhood I grew up in, 70% of the time the engines don't make it in the national standard. So what I'm here to ask for is the same thing the other firefighters asked for, is a plan to get more firefighters, more ambulances, ladder trucks, engines, so that we can provide the help this community deserves. We would be more than happy to help. We just need the resources. Thank you for your time.
I do have one card here from Anthony Edelman. We need more firefighters to staff trucks in the city. We have large areas to cover now due to the shortage, thus increasing response times. Thank you very much for your comment. And that's it.
Thank you for your time. My name is Marshall Ziebel. I am currently a Phoenix firefighter for 13 years, as well as before that I was a City of Phoenix water worker. You've heard a lot of the stats that we have. Sorry, I'm going to try not to pop this mic, but we've heard a lot of the numbers tonight about how our staffing is down in the fire department, 138 firefighters. That is below the staffing level that is one firefighter to every 1,000 citizens. That's what we should hold our standard to, and we are not doing that. Within Phoenix, right now, we are one firefighter to 4.5 thousand citizens, and that is well below the standard. So I live in this community as well, in District 1, and I've had the privilege of serving right in my neighborhood. We had an incident just the other night that I was on an ambulance, or we call them rescues in our system, and we had a 25-minute response time to a difficulty breathing. Now, if anybody here has ever had a hard time breathing or catching your breath, you need an intervention immediately. Now, this person, luckily, there was an engine that was close enough within 6 to 8 minutes, but I can't imagine somebody having those issues for that long and having to suffer through that. Now, as a firefighter, we signed up to do our job, to serve the citizens through the City of Phoenix, no matter where we're at. And within this district, we are growing. We have not kept up with that pace as a fire department. Right now, we say that we have a surplus of funds, and we really don't. That money needs to go to building fire stations and putting firefighters on trucks and staffing ambulances and rescues within this district. Okay, we were behind, so that we heard mention of the first due area. When one fire truck goes out, another fire truck comes in to that due, and that increases our response time. So our response times go up. That ability for us to make a difference in somebody's life goes down. But no matter that emergency, so in a fire, in a house fire, the size of the fire doubles every 30 seconds. The brain tissues and heart tissues in a medical emergency start to die without oxygen. So imagine if, unfortunately, imagine this, that you're sitting on scene and you're waiting 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes, and that's your house or your family member, or that's my house or my family member. That is absolutely unacceptable. And that is unacceptable, and that can change. We need to start building and planning and forecasting for this area of development. For this city to grow, to continue to grow is excellent and great, and the revenue is good, but we need to start planning for that. And we can do that by building fire stations and putting firefighters on trucks and staffing our stations and serving our citizens, because we do truly deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a card from Michael Henry, does not wish to speak. The need for 138 firefighters to provide enough staffing for 5 additional fire trucks. And Mr. Henry, I also compliment you on your handwriting. Best of the night. Thank you. We do have one more card. I can't remember if he wishes to speak. I'm going to turn it over to Milton because it's more technical in nature. Milton, if you would read the name, ask the person to come up if they wish, and then maybe you can explain how we can get back to them with an answer, because I do not know off the top of my head.
So the next speaker is, looks like Ronald Suri.
So, unlike most of the speakers today, I'm not asking for more funds to go to any particular cause. I'd actually like to see the funds kind of procured from us in a more clean and ethical way. I think we should have a more technologically advanced way of actually funding these programs and different things that we all feel is important. I'm trying to get back to where I was before so basically, the public works, they shouldn't be funded through civil asset forfeiture, which I had the question of, which is what % of the budget is actually civil asset forfeiture?
Sir, I don't know that answer, but I'll get it for you. I've got your information
I
here.
appreciate that, because I asked at the last meeting last week, but I didn't get an answer either, but I was kind of hoping for one, but that's fine. So basically, currently you have too many laws, regulations, and statutes causing the unnecessary bog down of the law enforcement, and they basically cannot fund or be there available for crimes against consent, your murders, rapes, and thefts. I recently heard that I guess they were passing a bill about actually having the jury questionnaires policed by law enforcement to find out if they're truthful or not and actually enforce those, which sounds like an incredible waste of time and effort and money. Essentially, with that, the percentage of the budget not being known which % is coming from civil asset forfeiture, which is the actually just whenever a citation, fine, or fee comes from essentially the public and goes towards the budget, it kind of creates a cyclical kind of method of how is it that the law enforcement is being funded by that which is basically being collected by the law enforcement, which kind of creates a cyclical, almost questionable thought of how could we allow that and that seem ethical. But that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Just when you think you're out, they drag you back in. We actually got 3 more cards after I said that was the last one. But Milton first, if you would, I'm sorry the gentleman had to not get his answer from last week, but I'm sure they're working on it. But if you could maybe provide the answer to the 2 of us and then the gentleman as well. You've got, I think, all the contact information you need for him there. Suzanne Day did not wish to speak, but she did write a message. Maricopa County had the 2nd highest pedestrian fatality, I don't know if it's fatalities or fatality rate in the U.S. in 2016. We must stop prioritizing motor vehicles over humans. Please approve and implement Complete Streets and the Bicycle Master Plan. Thank you, Ms. Day, for being here. The next person to speak is Emily Spetrino, who wants to talk about police funding. And our last speaker, unless more cards come in, Chris Murphy, if they're still here, if you would come on up as well.
Hello, thank you. My name is Emily Spetrino, and I am a lifelong Phoenix resident, and I actually own 2 businesses here in the city, the Coronado and Dark Hall Coffee. Thank you guys for taking my comments. I'm here today to speak out against the increased use of our city's budget towards the Phoenix Police Department. As a business owner and an active community member, it's embarrassing that Phoenix continues to spend so much money, time, and energy catering to the police and their unions. The last time I checked, Thrillist and BuzzFeed weren't writing stories about the super cool amount of money we pump into our police force or how awesome it is that they have shot nearly 20 people this year. We don't have thousands of tourists flock to Phoenix because they heard about how many SROs we put into our schools. My businesses, my friends' businesses, the artists, the organizations, restaurants, venues, people that live and breathe and make this city what it is should be reaping the benefits of the city budget. We should be investing in making our streets safer with bike lanes, rec centers, and arts investment, not more riot gear and guns for cops to use on black and brown bodies. It gets harder and harder to invest in a city that continually divests from what makes a city great. I hope the next time Phoenix makes national news, it's not because of another person the police have murdered, but because of the ways Phoenix has changed the narrative of what safety can look like in our communities. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy?
Hello, my name is Chris Murphy. I'm a captain with the Phoenix Fire Department. I'm a resident of Phoenix. I've lived here my entire life, and I've been with the fire department for 25 years. I just want to take a quick second. There's quite a few officers in the room. I just want to say thank you from a personal standpoint. Anybody who's willing to pick up a badge and a gun and stand up for my safety, I greatly appreciate that, and I think you deserve our respect and our admiration. So thank you for what you do on the other half of the public safety that's here. I want to say thank you to the two of you for Engine 55. I know this side of the room is mostly the fire department community and public safety, so thank you for Engine 55. But now I want to talk to this half of the room, the rest of the people that actually live in this first due in this area. Engine 55 is great, but unfortunately that station was supposed to be built 10 years ago. 10 years without that fire station. The rapid growth in this area, you are not getting the help that you deserve. We cannot get to you in the reasonable amount of time that you expect and deserve. It's that simple. Councilman Waring, I actually work in your area. My job is to protect the residents of Desert Ridge. The closest ambulance we have that's full-time, all the way up to the Carefree Highway, is at 56th Street in Thunderbird. That's the closest full-time ambulance all the way to Carefree Highway. On this side of town, all the way to Carefree Highway and above, that's still City of Phoenix, the closest one we have is right here at the 101. After that, it's Greenway. That's it. That's one. There's at least 20 people standing over here. If more than one of you gets sick, it's going to be a long time before we get there. So what we're asking you guys to do is look forward. Don't let another 10 years go by to schedule more stations and more hiring. That's where we came up with 138 people. We need to increase the staffing for the fire department to make sure that the citizens that you serve and that we serve, that they get the response times that they deserve so that we can help them and their families. So, thank you.
Thank you for your service. Are there any more cards or people wishing to speak? Just because you didn't fill out a card, you can certainly do so now. Okay, thank you. Well, we appreciate everybody coming out. A lot of comments. I'm going to take just a second to respond to a couple of them. I vehemently disagree with the criticism of the police officers or any implication that somehow they make our communities less safe. I disagree with that. But respectfully, I understand other people may have a different point of view, but I don't feel that's appropriate. Anybody who's gone, as I have on a police ride-along, knows how tough those jobs are and the incredible quick decision-making that goes into those jobs and the risks that those officers take. So I just want to thank them for their service, as was indicated. I don't think any of them spoke tonight, but there are several in the back of the room. Thank you to the firefighters and other public safety officials and city workers who are here. We appreciate you putting this on. Milton, thank you for coming out. We've got 3 of these going tonight, so I know city staffers are scattered all around. I did another one of these last week, and we had the airport out the week before that, so that's my 3rd of these in 3 weeks. So hopefully we're not over-meeting people, and I'm glad that so many people showed up for this one tonight. So thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to Thelda to take us home.
And I will be short and sweet so we can go home. I support what Jim said about the police department. When I hear about how many people have been shot, but how many weapons were the police looking at when those incidents happened. And I'm a big supporter of fire. I believe this area is growing rapidly. When you think that our northern boundary is New River Road, and there are people who live up there that require city services. And can you imagine how long it would take to get an ambulance or a fire truck up there? Thank God we have reciprocal agreement with Daisy Mountain, but that area is growing so rapidly, it's not enough. I think Jim and I both are people of most of the council that look forward. We've gone through some tough times. We had the recession, projects that were scheduled to be built didn't happen, and we are playing catch up now. But our priorities are yours. And I thank you all for being here tonight because your comments make a difference. This is not complete until everything is tabulated. We hear your comments. And then we will have one last hearing at City Hall. You are welcome to come there in case what's coming out doesn't fully meet what you think our needs should be. But we are a team and we need to work together. And it is a large city and it's very diverse. And just by living arrangements, it's very diverse. But I applaud all your efforts and your support and to continue to make this strong neighborhoods up here because that's where a lot of good things happen. And thank you for being here tonight. Look forward to working with you in the future. And thank you, Councilman Waring. Mr. Downey, thank you for being here, and all the staff. Good night. Safe trip home.